Right, let us start. Before we come to question, I remind that deferred divisions will take place in the No lobby between 11:30 to 2 p.m. Questions now to the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, Lee Anderson.
Number one, please, sir.
Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, before I begin, may I also put on record the government's sincere condolences to the family of Frank Field, who sadly passed away last night. The former member for Birkenhead for over 40 years, Frank was a titan of this House and embodied its best values in decency, honesty and integrity. I got to know him particularly well in those remarkably calm Brexit years when I was the junior government whip detailed to just get a few friends on the other side of the chamber to vote in the appropriate manner. And I know the whole House will join with me in wishing his family well at this difficult time. I'd also like to start by welcoming the news that the Post Office Horizon Bill will be amended to include Northern Ireland. I'd like to thank the Honourable Member for the First Malton for all the productive meetings and discussions he'd had with the First Minister, Deputy First Minister and Justice Ministers in Northern Ireland. To answer the Honourable Gentleman's question, this government will never be neutral when it comes to expressing our support for the Union and Northern Ireland's place within it. It is clear that the Union is going from strength to strength, and we're committed to further strengthening and safeguarding the Union through the implementation of the Windsor Framework and our delivery of the safeguarding the Union commitments. Northern Ireland has the best of both worlds now when it has a stable Northern Ireland executive backed by the support and strength of the UK government. And Northern Ireland's peaceful place in the UK is secured by the Belfast Good Friday Agreement and the principle of consent set within it. I regularly speak to my Cabinet colleagues about their and their department's role in safeguarding Northern Ireland's interest in the Union.
Lee Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I voted for the Windsor Framework because the Prime Minister said it removed the Irish Sea border. Yet £192 million is budgeted to be spent on installing border posts for this non-existent Irish border. So could the Secretary of State please advise the House of the number of checks on people and goods travelling through Great Britain and Northern Ireland? Has these checks increased or decreased since the introduction of the Windsor Framework?
Great question. Secretary of State.
Can I thank the Honourable Gentleman for his question? And it really does depend on whether... So even in the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill, there was provision for a red lane for those goods that were going into Northern Ireland that might well flow into the Republic of Ireland itself. And it does rather depend on whether these numbers the Honourable Gentleman looked at is checks in the red lane or the green lane, or hopefully in the now through the new internal market scheme. The numbers actually rise and fall dependent on a whole host of factors, and as trade increases, as it is doing so, so will the number of checks as a whole, but they will go down as a percentage because the checks will be on goods going through most of the red lane. Now, we will soon get to the point promised in the command paper where we ensure there will be no checks when goods move within the United Kingdom internal market system, save those conducted by UK authorities as part of a risk-based or intelligence-led approach to tackle criminality, abuse of the scheme, smuggling or disease risks. And this will ensure the smooth flow of goods that are moving within the UK internal market.
Right. Chair of the Select Committee, Sir Robert Buckland.
Mr. Speaker, a vital part of securing Northern Ireland's place in the Union is the Shared Prosperity Fund, which is about levelling up and making sure Northern Ireland has its fair share. Funding is due to end next year in March of 2025. What clarification can he give to community, voluntary and other groups that need to plan ahead and face a cliff edge of funding if they do not have those assurances soon?
Can I thank my right honourable friend, the chairman of the Select Committee? I'm wary of giving too many assurances in this space because that is beyond the time of the next general election. There will be a new Conservative government which will have its own, which will have priorities that it wish to update. But we do know that the success of the Shared Prosperity Fund has had in Northern Ireland, and I would like to see, and I'd like to think, and indeed I've visited projects which has funded, I would like to think it would continue strongly across the next spending review period.
Gavin Robinson.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of my colleagues, can I extend our deepest sympathies to the family of Frank Field. We shared 4 years in this House together, and I always found him to be a very warm and engaging colleague, somebody who would have time for young parliamentarians like myself, and somebody who believed very much in this place and our country. Can I also thank the Secretary of State and the Minister responsible for the inclusion of Northern Ireland into the Horizon Scandal Bill? I think that is incredibly important. Mr. Speaker, I, as a Unionist, believe in this country and will work every day to strengthen our place within it. We recognise the Safeguarding the Union document as an important stepping stone in maintaining and securing our position. The Secretary of State has mentioned the commitment of government to eliminate all checks, routine checks within the UK internal market system, and we look forward to his faithful delivery of that. We have seen the creation of the East West Council, and yet we have heard little of the Intertrade UK construction and the establishment of the Independent Monitoring Panel. Could I ask the Secretary of State to update the House on those issues?
Can I thank the right honourable gentleman for his question? I can assure, and I look forward to working with him in his new role, and I can assure him that His Majesty's Government are working at pace and will deliver on our command paper commitments in full, including on the commitments we made on checks in that command paper. He asked about a whole range of different bodies and pledges we made. On the East West Council, just last month, we had the inaugural meeting of the East West Council. The meeting did provide an opportunity for ministers from the United Kingdom Government and Northern Ireland's Executive to come together to discuss the main priorities of the Council's work programme, and we're committed to strengthening and safeguarding the Union through our implementation of that. We're committed to safeguarding the UK internal market by establishing new bodies such as Intertrade UK, which will promote and facilitate trade within the United Kingdom, and I will answer other points when time allows.
Gavin Robinson.
Grateful, Mr. Speaker, for that. He will recognise that one of the issues absent from the Windsor Framework and subsequent agreements was the conclusion of an arrangement for veterinary medicines. And he will know how important agriculture is to the Northern Ireland economy, and that Northern Ireland produces 10 times the food that we need to the benefit of our nearest neighbours. The establishment of the Veterinary Medicines Working Group with the Minister of State and my honourable colleague from North Antrim has been incredibly positive, but there is a cliff edge toward the end of next year. So we need to see a successful conclusion to that issue, and I'd be grateful that he could inform the House that that will be the case.
I thank the right honourable gentleman, because this is actually a very, very important matter to both the government and for Northern Ireland. The government's priority is to secure a long-term sustainable solution on veterinary medicines, and to that end we wish to pursue such a solution through discussions with the European Union, as well as preparing for safeguards in all scenarios. We set up, as he said, a veterinary medicines working group to advise the government on solutions, and are grateful to the expertise of members of this House who are joining that group. And the working group has met twice and aims to report in a timely manner in June. And in the meantime, we have put in place a grace period arrangement until the end of 2025, which supports continuity of supply in Northern Ireland. But he's right to emphasise the importance of this point, and we are working hard on it.
Andrew Salute.
Number 2, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the UK Government is committed to the long-term economic growth of Northern Ireland and is working closely with the Executive and business to demonstrate what a fantastic place that Northern Ireland is to live, to work and invest. Some of the things we've done have included the Northern Ireland Investment Summit. We're committed to levelling up Northern Ireland's economy with £617 million spent on 4 city and growth deals. We're implementing key deliverables, of course, in the Safeguarding the Union command paper, and we continue to promote Northern Ireland's unique institutional arrangements.
Andrew Salute.
With the Executive now restored and enjoying a financial package of over £3 billion, does the Minister agree that Northern Ireland businesses are now positioned for an era of transformational success?
Absolutely right, and I agree. I'm grateful to him for highlighting this position. But of course, funding is only one part of the solution. It's vital to have transformation of public services, and there's going to need to be innovative strategic thinking to that end, as well as some revenue raising. The government absolutely stands ready to assist the Northern Ireland Executive with formal structures to help them towards those ends. I'm grateful to him.
the Minister of State for his answer. We have a massively skilled workforce in Northern Ireland, as everyone here knows, and I know the Minister knows. But in order to increase investment, Mr. Speaker, we must create more skilled jobs and employ more people within that sector. So what discussions has the Minister of State had with Cabinet colleagues to secure more jobs in our aerospace community in Northern Ireland? We can do more, we just need a bit more help. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm very grateful to him, and I've visited Spirit Aerosystems as well as other related companies, and there's a terrific pool of talent and skill there in Northern Ireland. We work with DBT to ensure that the same advantages are available to people and businesses in Northern Ireland as across the rest of the UK. I sense that brevity requires I not elaborate DBT's full offer, but it is certainly there, and if he wishes, I can certainly write to him and set out the detail. I will write to him and set out the detail of DBT.
Question 3. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, yes, the UK Government regularly engages with the recently restored Northern Ireland Executive on a range of issues, and we will continue to work together for the benefit of Northern Ireland. Only yesterday I met with Minister Muir, who is responsible for agriculture, environment and rural affairs, to discuss the implications of the Windsor Framework and to work through how I can help him to succeed across his full spectrum of responsibilities.
Arthur.
I thank the Minister for that positive response. He will be aware of the ecological disaster that is Lough Neagh, which supplies 40% of Northern Ireland's drinking water, and that's partly caused by the runoff of agricultural fertiliser, climate change and the spread of the invasive zebra mussel species, but it's also been exacerbated by sewage dumping. So can he say a bit more, because in the past I've found that this department and DEFRA here have not been willing to work with Stormont in addressing some of these environmental issues in Northern Ireland, and what can he do to address these?
I'm very grateful to her, and yes, I've stood on the shores of Lough Neagh, very conscious of the condition of that body of water. It is, of course, an enormous body of water and very beautiful. But the reality is that the responsibility for it is devolved. We haven't had an executive for a period. We're absolutely delighted that it is both back and that being conducted and carried forward in a very constructive spirit. I will continue, as I say, to work with Minister Muir. I don't want to tread on his toes, but we will put ourselves at his disposal to offer whatever help we reasonably can. But I know that he's a minister of great dedication and energy, and I will look forward to him succeeding on this urgent matter.
Sir Oliver.
Yeah, right, honourable friend, agree with me that Frank Field left an immense legacy in the field of pensions, starting off as chairman of the APPG on the Maxwell pensioners problem, an inspired Minister of State, and subsequently involved in all the great debates we've had on pensions, and we'll miss him. As regards nature-based solutions to climate change, what impact do you think they could have on the sort of problems we've been discussing in the context of Northern Ireland?
Well, I'm most grateful to my right honourable friend, and I will agree with him on the pensions point. When it comes to nature-based solutions, I would love to have that conversation with him. Perhaps we might do it in the tea room. But again, I would just observe it's not my specialist area of expertise, and I'm very confident that Minister Muir would be interested to know his ideas. If he wishes to share them with me, I'll gladly pass them on.
Alexander Stafford.
Number 4, please.
Secretary of State.
With permission, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to answer questions 4 and 12 together. I'm sure my honourable friends will welcome the fact that Northern Ireland is once again has local politicians taking decisions in a local assembly accountable to local people. With a funding package worth over £3 billion, the Executive is taking forward the vital work of public service transformation and delivering sustainable finances, ensuring better outcomes for the day-to-day lives of the people of Northern Ireland. And the impact of all this so far has been unbelievably positive.
Alexander Stafford.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The commitment this government, and of course my right honourable friend, has shown in pushing for the restoration of the Northern Ireland Executive is clearly demonstrated in the £3.3 billion announced to transform public services there. But what help is the Home Office Civil Service providing to their colleagues in Northern Ireland to further make sure the people of Northern Ireland have a modern, efficient public services they deserve, and how will this benefit all 4 nations?
Can I thank my honourable friend for his question and agree with him, actually. There's now a fantastic opportunity, and we're trying to take it, for the UK Government to collaborate with and support the Northern Ireland Executive to transform public services. The UK Government has high hopes that ministers in the Executive will move quickly to deliver on their commitments to set up a transformation board, and the Government is excited to work with Northern Ireland ministers to produce plans that will deliver that transformation for Northern Ireland. Indeed, I met with the First and Deputy First Ministers last week, where we talked about this work and how we can further it in the very short term.
Luke Evans.
Building on the Secretary of State's answer, isn't the return, does he agree with me, the return and the restoration of the Northern Ireland Assembly now provides the stability for further private investment into Northern Ireland? This is a massive opportunity and the missing link in the puzzle that could make a huge difference. How does he plan to intend to capitalise upon this?
My honourable friend is absolutely right. Not only does the restoration of devolved government provide certainty and stability for business, but it allows us to harness our combined energies and expertise to make Northern Ireland a fantastic place to live, work and invest. My honourable friend, the Minister of State, reminded the House of the success of the Northern Ireland Investment Summit last September, which welcomed 180 business investors from around the world, and of our £617 million investment in Northern Ireland's 4 city and growth deals. And recently I visited Washington, D.C., where with both the First and Deputy First Ministers present. And it's fair to say, Mr. Speaker, that the US business community is now well aware of the amazing opportunities that now exist in Northern Ireland and are looking at them hungrily.
Gregory Campbell.
Mr. Speaker, the return of devolution has to be built upon, particularly when there are still some issues to be resolved. While some in Northern Ireland concentrate on complaining about the outstanding problems, there are those of us committed to resolving them. The Secretary of State is in a better position than most to help resolve them. Will he recommit today that in the coming weeks we will see further moves in the direction of resolving all the outstanding issues?
Can I thank the honourable gentleman for his question and also congratulate him on his recent honour for his many, many years of public service, elected service in this place and to his constituents. Yes, he absolutely can have that commitment for me. I am committed to delivering all the pledges we made in the command paper at great pace, and I'm absolutely committed to delivering the best outcomes for everyone across Northern Ireland, because that is what Northern Ireland deserves.
Sir George Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Of course, the restoration of devolved government in Northern Ireland is very welcome. The Minister will be aware that polling evidence since the Good Friday Agreement has shown that the big growth area in how people identify themselves is that a growing number of people identify as being Northern Irish, as distinct from Irish or British. What implications does he think that has on the way devolved government conducts itself going forward?
Can I thank the honourable gentleman for his question, because it's a genuinely interesting point, the growth in the number of people who do declare themselves, who live in Northern Ireland, who declare themselves to be Northern Irish. And I'd like to think it reflects itself in the way that the First Minister and the Deputy First Minister are now go about conducting their business. They are working together as in a respectful and positive way, respectful of each other's communities and wanting the best for the place they represent. And I do believe this signifies a healthy development for the future of Northern Ireland politics.
Chair Secretary of State Hilary Benn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your eloquent tribute to Frank Field. He was a brave and a generous man. And can I say to the Right Honourable Member for Belfast East that we look forward to working with him in his new position. The UK's successful bid to host with Ireland the 2028 Euros is a fantastic opportunity for Northern Ireland, but with just 3 years left to build the Casement Park Stadium, the Executive has yet to invite tenders. In May last year, the Secretary of State was asked who would provide the money, and he replied, "All partners, I guarantee it." Given the clock is now ticking, how and well does the Right Honourable Gentleman intend, with others, to honour that guarantee so the stadium gets built on time?
Secretary of State.
I thank my Right Honourable friend for his question. He knows that he's asking the question of a football referee for the last 43 years and someone who's rather passionate about the game. And I really do want to see these Euro games played at Casement Park. I made clear that I would like to see Euro 2028 games take part in Casement Park. However, the latest costs that I've seen are significantly higher than the ones they were a year ago. And any taxpayer contribution to the Casement Park project will need to be made on a value-for-money basis. And I've said also many times there is no blank cheque here, especially when there is no contractor appointed yet. You do not want to artificially inflate a price. And the Northern Ireland Executive will also need to decide on whether and how it will underwrite any future increases in costs. So we are all partners, as I said back then, are working together to try and work out what the number is and how we can deliver on it.
I'm grateful to the Secretary of State for that reply. One of the other challenges the institutions are facing is dealing with the continuing legacy of the Troubles. And 7 days from now, all civil cases and inquests related to the Troubles will come to an end under the Legacy Act, which is widely opposed in Northern Ireland. Does the Right Honourable Gentleman think that confidence in the new independent commission will be helped or hindered by the fact that he has recently brought 3 separate legal challenges to the disclosure by coroners of information to families about what actually happened to their loved ones, information which they have been denied for so many years?
I believe that actually the Honourable Gentleman there is conflating 2 issues. One is ongoing elements of how we deal with PII and the neither confirm nor deny policy in court cases in Northern Ireland and indeed across the United Kingdom. And secondly, what the new commission we're setting up to deal with legacy has to do. And I actually do believe that those who have even civil cases now will be able to use the ICRIR when it opens its doors on the 1st of May in good faith. Indeed, only this month, the former co-chair of the consultative group on the past, Dennis Bradley, stated that he thought and I quote, the people involved around the ICRIR are very good people, and I have a lot of regard for them. And if people decide it offers them something, then I'd be very reluctant to make too many strong judgments around it. Because, and this is the problem we are trying to solve as the UK government, and I quote him directly, we have created a swamp around legacy, a complete swamp, and anything that helps some people to get out of that swamp, I won't be too critical.
SNP spokesperson Richard Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I add a tribute from my own party to Frank Field and send our condolences to his friends and family. In 40 years as an MP for Birkenhead, he was a very faithful servant not only to his constituents but also to this place. Right across the House, the return of devolved government to Northern Ireland has been rightly welcomed. Could I ask the Secretary of State to reaffirm his government's commitment to the principle of consent, not just in Northern Ireland, but also in Scotland and in Wales, that the peoples of these places should be able to choose the form of government best suited to their needs, whether that happens to be inside or outside of the United Kingdom?
Secretary of State.
Well, I very much welcome the Right Honourable Gentleman's welcoming of restored institutions. I'm also a great respecter of results of referenda. I believe in Scotland we've had one, and that's probably enough said.
Jones.
Question 5, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, the Government remains committed to supporting integrated education in Northern Ireland and has already made available funds to support more schools than ever to convert to integrated status. I and my noble friend Lord Kane look forward to engaging with the new Education Minister, Paul Given, to make progress on this important issue.
Sarah Jones.
2 weeks ago, I travelled with colleagues to Northern Ireland and we visited Forge Integrated Primary School and met lots of very fine children. In 2015, £150 million of Fresh Start funding was earmarked for integrated education in Northern Ireland. So what does the Minister say to those schools who were expecting this funding but have found it's no longer guaranteed?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the House may not know that in Northern Ireland only 7% of school children, 7% can be said to be attending an integrated school, and that is something which we would like to see change. On her particular point, I think it has to be said that the period over which Fresh Start funding was released would have ended at the end of March next year. So what we've done is repurpose £150 million of that funding to provide additional flexibility to the Northern Ireland Executive in respect to that funding stream and schools. We are determined to see more parents given the opportunity to choose integrated education for their children as a vital part of the process of reconciliation, and I for one am especially committed to it as somebody who proudly attends a Baptist church where for many years I worshipped with a Roman Catholic lady and had no idea. We should help Northern Ireland move to the point that denomination is a small matter and people move forward together.
An important item in the in-tray of the newly reformed executive is early years education and childcare. Thanks to the actions of this government, we now have more generous entitlement to free childcare in England and Northern Ireland. Will he discuss with the executive how Northern Ireland might be levelled up on childcare, including, for example, using revenue-raising measures?
My right honourable friend is absolutely right to raise this, and I'm very grateful to her for putting it on the agenda. Certainly we will engage with the executive on this point, and she is, of course, absolutely right to mention revenue raising. It is a fact that the executive needs to both transform public services and improve revenue raising so that everything there can be on a sustainable basis.
Mr. Blair Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also recently visited the Forge Integrated Primary School in Belfast, and I saw their many much needed and developed plans to replace their porter cabins with buildings to answer for the need, an extra need for integrated schools. They're very disappointed, Mr. Speaker, that this has been shelved along with projects in 9 other integrated schools. Education is devolved, but this was earmarked UK government money agreed under the 2015 Fresh Start Agreement. Does the Secretary of State understand why teachers, pupils and parents are so disappointed that those plans have been shelved, and does he have any plans to restore them? Thank you.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I do hear the honourable lady, and my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State, and I do, of course, understand people's concerns, and we too have visited schools. I certainly have. I think my right honourable friend has. But I would repeat again that what we've done is repurpose the money so that it could endure and be available to the executive to be used for purposes as they decide. If we'd not repurposed it, the money would have expired at the end of March next year. So actually I'm proud that we've taken the steps necessary with the Treasury to enable this money to continue to be available to the executive. But it is for them to decide how to spend it, but we do continue to be fully committed to integrated education.
Anna.
The Northern Irish public's relief at the restoration of the Assembly 6.
I've met with the First Minister and Deputy First Minister last week where we had a constructive discussion about the Executive's priorities.
Public's relief at the restoration of the Assembly has given way to frustration at the lack of pace of delivery by the Executive. After a 2-year void, they are saying they don't want to be hurried to deliver for Northern Ireland. Health care staff who are oppressed, people waiting for special educational needs, and people watching Lough Neagh face into another summer of algae bloom are very much in a hurry for action. Northern Ireland urgently needs a delivery plan, it needs a programme for government, and it needs a budget. Yes, resources are part of that. Can the Minister update on any negotiations on the fiscal framework, and will he impress on the Executive the need for urgent action and not just warm words?
Secretary of State.
The one thing I did pick up from the First Minister and Deputy First Minister last week is they too want to act in all the ways that the honourable lady said, and their priorities include developing a programme for government which will enable them to take forward the vital work of public service transformation. They're only 12 weeks in, and I do look forward to good results in the short, medium and long